Gossipnista here, your one and only source into the real lives of New Yorkers and what it's like to live in New York City. So is it all glitz and glamour? Where do you start? What should you know? And who am I? I'll tell you everything you need to know, and you'll thank me for it. XOXO Gossipnista. Hey everyone, I'm so excited about today's episode. Have you ever just had questions that you needed someone to answer? And when you finally do, it's like such great information. You just want to share it with everyone. So that's what I feel about this episode. It's just a curiosity that came across. And then I thought, okay, this could actually be beneficial to so many other people. So here I am. On today's show, I have Moises as my guest, who's a New York Airbnb host in Manhattan and has made it a great side hustle. We'll talk about how you can become a host if it's something you've ever thought about in the city and how to be successful at it. Also, the benefits of it. And of course, there's always a horror story or two. So please brace yourself for this one. And I recommend no children. We'll also delve into why renting an Airbnb may be more beneficial to truly getting that real New York experience in the city when visiting, and so much more. With that being said, here's my interview with Moises. Moises, welcome. How are you?
Hey, thanks for having me, Mariana. It's great to be on your show.
Yes, of course. I'm so happy to be chatting with you, connecting and talking this subject and you giving us all your insight on it. So before we actually jump into that, I want to hear about your native New York status, right? Your story.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm originally from Brooklyn, born, raised. I moved away from Brooklyn when I was about in like ninth grade, maybe like 12 or 13. I went to the suburbs. My mom had got a new job.
So where's the suburbs?
Yeah, so I went kind of like that transition from like being in like a, big urban public school to like a suburban kind of like sleepy town for high school. So it was like kind of like a big transition in like the middle of like, adolescence and all that going on.
And so what borough of Brooklyn were you from?
Specifically, we're from Cobble Hill.
There we go.
Yeah,
Not borough,
yeah,
neighborhood.
Yeah, neighborhood. Yeah, exactly. So it's like a little quite like very family oriented neighborhood.
Okay, perfect. And then so how long were you out of the city before you came back in the city? And then what has your experience been in New York ever since?
Yeah, so I was out of the city for about 8 years. So 4 years for high school, and then 4 years for my undergrad. I was in I moved to Delaware, and then I was in Pennsylvania, and I lived in Jersey one summer. But during that time, like I'd always come back to New York like some weekends and holidays because like my roots are here, my family's still here, my extended family. So
Right.
while I was away from the city, it was never too far away.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like general tri-state, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
and then so I mean, what is it you love about New York and what is it that you dislike about New York? Share with us. Share for people that don't know about
Yeah,
New York.
absolutely. So New York is it's a one of a kind place. Like I've traveled a lot of different places around the world. Continents like from Europe, South America, Africa, and I've been to big cities like London and Paris, and New York is, while it's a big city, similar to like those others. It's unique in the way that it has kind of like this dynamic. It's really hard to like put into words, but the city's alive. The city definitely has a rhythm. It's very alive. I just love the energy. I love how dynamic it is. I love how there's like beauty and sadness and like how transient things are.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a unique place. And that you can run into all different kinds of people from any part of the world here. So it never gets boring. So that's what I like about New York.
I love that. And what do you dislike? There must be something.
Well, yeah, New York will drive you crazy.
Why?
It's just like sometimes it's just like sensory overload. It's like it's very loud. Um,
Hmm.
the city isn't the cleanest city by any stretch. It's pretty dirty.
Hmm.
But I mean, it
Hmm.
being loud and dirty kind of goes into being that classic New York character, like that you see in
Hmm.
movies like the Gotham, or
Yeah.
its other different portrayals under different names. Whenever you
Yeah.
see like
Yeah.
a kind of like dark, a little dirty, kind of like a very built
Yeah.
up city, you can probably bet it's took some inspiration from New York.
Yeah. And so, last question about New York. What advice would you give to someone who is new to the city?
I would say keep an open mind.
Hmm.
It's I know a lot of the things about our city is a bit unconventional. Like for example, the subway system
Yeah.
at first, like for a newcomer, it can probably overwhelming. It's impossible to understand like what the train conductors ever saying.
Uh-huh.
I would just be patient and like if you get lost, don't panic. You'll be okay. That's part of
Hmm.
being in New York.
Oh, that's such great advice. That is so true. The subway, and so I'm glad you touched on that. I have an interview on this podcast with Subway Creatures. He's got millions of followers, and he kind of shows what happens underneath the subway, and he kind of shared some tips on the subway. So that'll be helpful. Listen to that episode, guys. But aside from that, Moses, you've been working, I would say, pretty hard, like doing Airbnb for a while. Maybe, maybe not. I'm not sure. So let's dive into that. How long have you been doing Airbnb and how did you get into it?
Yeah, so I've been Airbnb for about a year and a half now as a host. I've
Okay.
done Airbnb, as a guest for a few years prior to that.
Hmm. So the hosting part, let's talk about the hosting. You got into the hosting part a year ago. How many would you say homes are you Airbnb? Tell us about just your Airbnb experience overall.
Yeah, so I started off with one.
Hmm.
I'm currently at three, looking to add a fourth.
How does that even happen though? I mean, like, so you have one home, right? With the home you live in, and then like, how do you have more homes than one? I guess.
I wouldn't say they're each of them. Well, I have one home that's like fully mine that I rest my head in every
Hmm.
night. But the other homes, it's a network, right?
Hmm.
I work with some other hosts who also do this. We go together jointly because you have to keep in mind when you're Airbnb in New York. There's a lot of rules and
Mm.
regulation, and you always have to play like within the letter of the law, just to be safe. And that's for both you and your guests because you don't
Hmm.
want your guests to like get mixed into something
Hmm.
that they shouldn't be, that that could ruin anyone's holiday.
Yes. So you work within a network of hosts, and you have one main home, and then you guys all have, I guess, they have their own homes, and
Yeah,
you guys kind of rent in between them.
yeah.
And so what are some of the pros and cons of being a host?
So there's definitely like the pro. You do it for the money.
Okay.
Like at the end of the day, it comes down to the money.
Yeah.
Um, the biggest pro is,
Hmm.
I would say, is like the ability to make a little extra cash on your home, while sometimes you meet some interesting people along the way.
Let's touch on these two subjects. So the money aspect. So you're renting your home, and you're not renting for, say, the complete house itself, which I think that's frowned upon in general. I think in New York, you're renting a room.
Hmm.
Though describe your home to us. You have two, three rooms, and then you just rent a room out. And how does it equal? It being a benefit with the money.
Yeah, so I mean, I had roommates in the past, and I went into Airbnb kind of to like escape the roommates
Mm.
situation as well, because like when you Airbnb your home, you can kind of like make the rules, you can set the
Hmm.
standard, that kind of thing. Whereas when you have roommates, it's kind of different. Like everyone has
Right.
equal say. So currently, I am in a four-bedroom, two-bathroom home
Yeah.
here in New
Hmm.
York. One of those rooms is for my personal
Mm-hmm.
use. And that's also
Mm-hmm.
how it remains legal because, you know, whenever I'm hosting, I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
This is my primary home. And the other three rooms, they're available on Airbnb.
Awesome. So then those get rented out, and it's better than having a roommate. And, I'm assuming the amount for which these rooms rent end up, paying for the difference in the rent, and then maybe even giving you some extra for yourself, and profiting, and it being just a benefit way beyond having a roommate.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Like on your monthly expenses,
Mhm.
you can definitely, make some months, I've made like $1,500, $2,000.
Additional?
Yeah, like after everything is paid, that's just what I like, I put in my pocket.
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing.
And that's like almost like another check.
Exactly. Wow. But you also like have amazing amenities, right? I mean, it's not like this for everyone. So this is not something that someone can be like, "Oh, well, I'm going to do it and I'm going to do the same that Moses is," because it does depend on a lot of criteria. Is like the area you're in, the space you have to rent, how many rooms you have, how many bathrooms you have, whether you have washer and dryer, and all this good stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that all factors into the price,
Hmm.
location, what the space offers, how big the space is.
Hmm.
It's all, and then like what kind of things are unique about the space that
Hmm.
like kind of like that are niche that
Right.
people are willing to pay a little more for. So all these kind of different things factor into like what the final price is, and
So you have to also be good at marketing yourself through that Airbnb listing, and putting up good photos. Before I jump into that, let's go into the cons of being an Airbnb host, and then we'll go into tips a little later.
oh man, yeah. There's definitely been some cons.
Gossipnista here. Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying the show so far. I wanted to hop in here, as always, to please ask that you subscribe, rate, and review the Gossipnista podcast. That truly is what keeps me motivated to continue producing this content for you. Also, please be sure to stay till the end, as I will come in to share some of my Airbnb tips and tricks as a guest in New York. Now, back to the show.
The biggest con is like when you feel like someone has mistreated your home, and not like accidentally, like you can feel like it's been willful.
Right. Oh,
That has
wow.
probably been like the biggest con. It's very rare, honestly,
Mm-hmm.
because Airbnb kind of like creates a system with reviews and transparency that like you really are disincentivized from being like a shitty guest.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Based on that.
because it reflects on you, like it
Mm-hmm.
becomes part of like that history.
Right. I like that. But okay, so let's talk specifics. Tell me some crazy stories. Share
Oh man. It was June. We had
Mhm.
this guest. He was a solo traveler.
Mhm.
He came to visit New York, under the guise of like, he's seeing friends and family, that sort of thing.
Mhm.
So he seemed like a pretty nice guy. He even like brought us like a bottle of wine, like as like a
Yeah.
gift, or like that sort of thing.
Thanks.
Yeah, like thank you.
Mhm.
And then that's kind of where things started going downhill. So we,
Mhm.
in our rules, like, we create like kind of house rules to ensure like, the comfort of everyone in the home during their stay.
Right.
A lot of those were completely ignored. Like
Yeah.
this dude had brought like random people over. Like I don't know how racy this podcast is, but there were like sex parties
Oh,
apparently going on in his room.
wow. How did you know that specifically? I mean, were you hearing?
Oh, we saw the aftermath. The aftermath was like, and
No.
then there was a complaint from the guests next door that there was these really strange, loud noises coming from the room
Uh-huh.
at night that were like disturbing them and making them uncomfortable.
Oh.
I mean, just like kind of fast forward when we went to the room, like when it was given back to us,
Mhm.
There were all types of bodily fluids
Oh my
on
gosh.
the sheets. So there was fecal matter on the wall.
What?
Um, it was really like you can just like it's just like something I don't know out of like a horror movie.
No. Oh my gosh.
Really really disgusting.
Disgusting. No way. Okay. So, then this happens with this
Yeah.
guy who buttered you up. Oh my God. Just the fact that I even said that. Okay. Let's, let's delete that. No, I'm not going to, but it just made me think this.
Yeah, it was pretty gross. Like there was like I think there was like lubricant like
Uh-huh.
caked into the walls, so we had to actually
Wow.
repaint the room. We lost 4 days of prime July
Mm-hmm.
bookings
Mm-hmm.
because we had to close the room because like we couldn't host anyone in a room in the condition that it was in. It would just be like unacceptable.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I can't imagine. So what was the outcome for this guy? I hope like he was banned or something.
Uh, I don't know if he was banned, but we were honest in the review. Prior to leaving the review, we had a long back and forth
Mm-hmm.
exchange. We had to document the condition that the room was returned in.
Mm-hmm.
We created a case with Airbnb. We opened up pretty much like a resolution
Mm-hmm.
case. So we tried to recover about $500 worth of
Mm,
damages
okay.
for the room because it wasn't just like he broke this and that was that. Like the room
Mhm.
had to like we had to get professional work done to the room. Like the paint is like bespoke. We had to
Yeah,
get new paint. We had to hire contractors to paint the room.
right.
It was really like it was bad.
Wow, and
And
just glad that didn't
yeah.
discourage you and you guys kept going. On the opposite hand, I guess let's just I know I've already asked for pros and you mentioned some, but let's talk like pros of like good people you meet, right? How many people have you seen come in and out since you've started this? What are some pros of some of them?
I don't. It's been a lot. Definitely, it's probably I would say to an estimate maybe like around 250 people or
Wow.
so, maybe more than
Wow.
that, 300. It's been a lot of people. I
Wow.
really don't know. It's in New York, so it's very like fast paced, and we have people
Mhm.
that stay for one night. Some people stay for longer. So
Mhm.
you don't really meet all your guests. You don't connect with all of them, but there's
Mhm.
some guests like that you stay in touch with, that you
Mhm.
actually become friends with, that
Mhm.
you just meet people,
Yeah.
and you know that there's like a connection there.
Yeah.
Um, and that's been one of the more rewarding parts of it.
Oh,
So
that's cool. Yeah, I
yeah.
like that. Now, I'm just curious about these people since you see so many people come in and out, right? Are they mostly people just like tourists and visiting for a day or two, or is it people staying long term and looking to make a move to New York? Is it people, what is a commonality maybe you've seen?
Yeah, so I mean, like it's all of the above, honestly.
Really?
There's people that are here for their first time, that
Mm-hmm.
are just kind of here to like see if they like New York or fall in love with New York. There's people here that are on like their fourth or fifth visit that just love the city and they just love being here.
Mm-hmm.
There's also people that come that are in like some sort of transition in their life, whether they're moving here or they're, you know, uh, going to university here or graduate school. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
there's, it's literally the whole gambit.
Okay. Okay, that's cool. And one thing I wanted as a curious Airbnb myself, when you're say like you're the host and I'm looking to book and
Yeah.
you book some bookings like directly just let you book and it's like hey your reservation's confirmed and then others is like no and you have to go through like an approval like what's that like do you have to
Yeah.
set that up? Mm-hmm.
So Airbnb does give hosts a lot of control over how they like to host, like whether they want to do it all the time or part time.
Mm-hmm.
And also, they
Mm-hmm.
give hosts the option to screen their bookings should they choose to. So
Mm-hmm.
Airbnb gives you like their default like these are people that we approve to use our platform. You can instantly accept their booking if you wish, and we also kind of give that blessing.
Mm-hmm.
And that we by default, you go with the instant booking. So we let
Mm-hmm.
people, if they meet Airbnb's criteria, they can book our place, and
Mm-hmm.
that's it. However,
Okay.
there are other hosts that don't think that's enough. They would rather like kind of like chat with their potential guests first, see
Mm-hmm.
if like they feel like there's a good match. And if there is, they'll allow them. So like they can approve them, or if they feel that's not the case, they could decline.
Mm,
Um,
okay.
yeah, so that's a little difference there.
You've never not felt safe doing your Airbnb hosting, have you?
Oh, I've always felt safe. There's been times where, like, honestly, like some guests, like they come off a little weird,
Mm-hmm.
and that's completely normal. Sometimes it's just like you have to like get accustomed to like maybe different cultural norms
Mm-hmm.
that maybe like
Mm-hmm.
we might not be accustomed to, like things that are just a little
Right.
different. And yeah, so it's just that's been about the worst of it. There's never been a time where I've like felt like, I'm not safe in my own home.
Okay, that's good. That's good. And I'm sure if that's for you, then it's the same for others as well who are actually staying there. So I mean, overall, would you consider being an Airbnb host like a good thing and an easy thing to do and something that most anyone can do?
I think it's a good thing and an easy thing to do
Mm-hmm.
if you're committed to it. I don't think it's for everyone
Mm-hmm.
because I'm not sure if everyone can really commit to it, because to do it the right way,
Mm-hmm.
you need to be committed to it. Otherwise, like, your ratings will reflect that.
Okay.
The commentary left by guests will reflect that.
Okay.
Um, So I feel like, if you're gonna do it, do it right.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, just don't do it at all.
Okay, I like that. But so when you say committed, can you define, what that means?
Yeah, so I think number one is like, be committed to the guest experience.
Mhm.
Try to find ways to like, ensure that your guest has the simplest, easiest, and most comfortable
Mhm.
experience possible. Also like it's quality, right? Make sure like the space is clean.
Mhm.
Make sure like, they can move around easily. Make sure that if they have any questions or anything that they're unsure about, that they have someone that they can reach out to.
Right. Okay. So you would consider those like top tips for someone wanting to start hosting in New York? Like what would I guess New York specific those would be it?
I would say my top tips to be a successful host.
Mhm.
Um, I guess number one, be clean, because nobody
Mhm.
wants to like go to an apartment that's like dirty, that like it's dusty. They can get
Mhm.
like an infection from like using the bathroom or
Mhm.
something like that. Like
Oh,
you want
yeah.
you
Mhm.
want to like make sure you're running a clean shop, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Next thing is like, be friendly, be outgoing, and be committed to the guest experience.
Mhm.
So that would be like, doing little extra things, like maybe like having a coffee maker available for use, pots and
Yeah.
pans, oil, salt,
Mhm.
pepper, kind of those kind of things that people kind of expect when they go to a home, not like a hotel room, the little things that make it a home.
Yeah, I like that. Now, but okay, I did want to emphasize one thing. I think, you're giving a lot of good tips and points, but as you mentioned, unless you're committed to it, it's something that you discourage people not to do because it is a lot of work, right? Like, tell me about the work aspect of what it takes from you to run a successful Airbnb, home and also be able to make money off of it.
Oh yeah, so yeah, you definitely have to be committed to like, maintaining a clean home, whether
Hmm.
that's, you cleaning or hiring a good cleaning service.
Hmm.
There's also the aspect of like check-ins.
Mm,
So for all of our listings, we've gone the way of self check-in, meaning we give the guest, like ownership over like, their check-in. So like once like let's say check-in time's at 3,
mhm.
once your clock arrives, like, we don't have to be here to let them in. They can, let themselves in, and kind of like, will give them like kind of like that independent like experience, like they've just walked into like their home.
So is it a lock key or an electronic check-in?
It depends. Some of our homes, we have classic, like the lock box
Mm-hmm.
with like a
Mm-hmm.
key, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Of some of our newer homes, we go with we prefer the electronic, just
Mm-hmm.
because it's a little easier to manage, with keys and like access. It makes it also easier for the guests because they don't have to worry about fumbling around with keys or if they lose a key, that kind
Right.
of thing. It just avoids all those headaches.
Right. So then you just give someone a code and they would just push that and they'd get into the building as well as the apartment.
Yeah, exactly. So it makes our lives easier and like, the host life easier too.
Makes both parties a lot easier. That's awesome. Okay. So doing it, you said only if you're committed, right?
Yeah, do it if
So
you're committed. Otherwise, like, cause then like, it's gonna become a headache for you because then guests are gonna complain. And then if you
mhm,
get like too many, unhappy guests, then Airbnb will step in and like they'll like give you like also warnings like, you need to bring up your quality. Otherwise,
mhm,
we're gonna suspend you from the platform. So it's like
mm,
it's better if you're gonna do it that you're like committed to it and you do it the right
mhm.
way.
Yeah, and you prefer guests who like stay longer or shorter? Because I mean, there's a huge turnaround of you having to like clean sheets, like clean things and supply new things. Like it's almost like not a, I mean, like a hotel in a sense. You prefer long.
Yeah, yeah, it can feel like a hotel. Like when you get like a lot of back to back like one nighters and two nighters, it can be like really it can be a headache even like if you're not doing the cleaning, just a matter of coordinating all the time with the cleaning
Hmm.
people,
Hmm.
that can also start to be a drag.
Mm,
And then also like if you have back-to-back cleanings all the time, then it like that the cost goes up, and is
mm,
it then worth it?
mhm,
Some people tend to do like minimum stays of like 2 days or
mhm,
4 days, 3 days,
mhm.
anything that they feel comfortable with.
Can you, as a host, actually go in there and put like, I will only have people stay at my place that want to stay a minimum of 3 nights or longer, or so and so?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
you can. So the beauty of the platform is it gives you like infinite customizability.
Hmm.
So you can essentially, set that. I only want to host, let's say, on Fridays, and on Fridays I only want to have like guests that stay like the whole weekend or something.
Hmm.
Or like
Hmm.
if you have like a month, like you're going away on vacation and you don't want to like worry about flipping rooms or something, you can
Hmm.
set like minimums of a week or 2 weeks or even like the whole month, whatever you feel comfortable with, you can do.
Wow, that's awesome. So you're pretty much able to make it work based on your schedule, your availability, make some extra cash a month, and you do have to clean up and work a little bit on the side. But overall, would you say like you love Airbnb and you're glad you got into?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
I'm so happy that I've done it. Honestly, it's been life changing in the sense that like
really.
I have extra money.
Mm-hmm.
I've met a lot of cool people.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like my house is also a lot cleaner now all the time because I have to always be like on my toes, because I
Mm,
have guests coming. So that's also been a nice part of it.
that's
Um,
awesome. I mean, one of the biggest factors in New York is, rent and how expensive it is, anywhere from 25 and up, right?
yeah.
On average. So, I mean, if you're being able to take care of your rent and then have additional income and then have your job, it's like, wow, that's amazing for anyone, I'm sure.
Yeah, you're right. It's really a big
Yeah.
win because, like, New York is, I think it's the most expensive city in America, and one of the most expensive in the world. Definitely, it's like top five.
Yeah.
So, making it here, they say like if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere.
It's up to you,
Um,
New York, Moses. I'm like laughing here because I can't tell you the amount of times this has come up on all my interviews, and it's literally a slogan for my podcast now. I think so. I don't know if I'm allowed that copyright, but, but yes. So you're making it, and Airbnb is helping, and no complaints on that end. I mean, any thing maybe I have not asked, and I know I'm missing a lot of questions here, guys, because I'm the kind of person that listens to podcasts and I'm like, oh well, I have a million questions to ask, and really, when you're in this seat right now, which I'm in as the host, and Moses is speaking to me, you forget, even if you prepare. So, is there anything I may have missed or that you could share with the listeners, Moses, that will help them in getting in specifically an Airbnb apartment up in New York
Yeah,
and hosting?
I would say think about like, what your comfort level is. Think
Hmm.
about what you want your experience to be. So I guess for the first one, like number one, your comfort level. Are you okay sharing a home with another person? Like, should you book like just a room, right? And like in an apartment, like something that we offer. Because
Hmm.
you don't want to like get like, buyer's remorse or something like that. Like, you can show up and
Hmm.
like you're unhappy and you just have a terrible experience. And then like that's also kind of disheartening for the host because, they want you to have a good
Hmm.
experience as well. Um,
Right.
so think about like what your comfort level is. So like maybe you're like a kind of person that needs like a whole apartment to themselves, and there's
Hmm.
that's definitely available too. So if that's something that you want, just keep in mind. Um,
Yeah.
Another thing is like what sort of experience do you want to have? Like, do you want to live, like a true New Yorker, like maybe like not live like I guess in
Hmm.
Midtown or like go somewhere like more residential, like maybe like Brooklyn or like Washington
Hmm.
Heights, like some of these like kind of trendy up and coming neighborhoods that like locals
Hmm.
are like in love with. Um,
Hmm.
or do you want like your classic like Times Square, like as you walk out the front door kind of experience? Like think about what you want out of your New York experience.
So these were tips for people
Yeah,
who would be looking to stay at an Airbnb in New York, correct?
yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
So you're kind of pointing out that they should know a little bit of the area where they want to stay, and just depending on where that's going to make them the happiest, right? Without buyer's remorse in a sense. And if they're comfortable also sharing with someone versus having their own space. And I love that you brought that up because one of the biggest things is, people are coming to New York and they're going to stay somewhere, right? And then there's a choice between a hotel and Airbnb. What are the benefits of an Airbnb versus a hotel, would you say?
Yeah, so definitely the benefits of an Airbnb are you kind of like you get like a lens into like what the life of a New Yorker is like, not what you
Yes.
see on
Yes.
like Sex in the City or like what's like the Avengers, like with Tony Stark and his like Stark
Yeah.
Tower or whatever. Like you get to
Right.
see like
Right.
what an actual like New Yorker
Mm-hmm.
looks like. And then you also get like the things that you wouldn't get in a hotel, like a kitchen to like make breakfast, and like you
Mm-hmm.
might have like a much bigger room at a
Mm-hmm.
smaller price. So like maybe instead of splurging on a hotel, you can
Mm-hmm.
splurge a little on like a Broadway show that you really wanted to see, or like a Michelin star restaurant that you've always been wanting to visit, like that kind of thing.
Yes, I love that you brought up that point that that's what I wanted to touch upon. That, really when you stay at an Airbnb, to me, one of the best experiences, particularly in New York, before actually, making the transition there was, seeing the inside of a New York home, experiencing New York as a New Yorker, like you mentioned, really being able to just wake up, go to the subways, live the real life, the hustle and the bustle without it actually being touristy. you know, so
Yeah.
that's the great benefit of an Airbnb on top of just great prices, meeting New Yorkers, and I mean, I can go on and on. But
So while you can save money at an Airbnb,
mhm,
there's like some cons to staying at an Airbnb versus a hotel. Like,
mm,
for example, I spoke of my horror story earlier,
mm,
with our one guest that had, like held a lot of debauchery in someone's room
yeah,
in their house.
yeah,
If you're kind of like, no judgment, if you're gonna come to New York to party, out of your mind, and you want to just have like that, you want that experience,
Mm-hmm.
like go for the hotel.
Mm-hmm.
Because hotels are better equipped to manage those situations, to clean up afterward and all that.
Yeah.
And someone's Airbnb might be so,
Mm-hmm.
and it might save you a headache, with of an upset host.
Yeah. Yeah. So respect your host and respect the space you're in, guys. If you are Airbnb, Moses made a great point. Go to the hotel if you're looking to party. And if you're looking to get the actual true New York experience, you can head to the Airbnb. But I love what you're doing, and I loved all the insight you shared, Moses. I think people are going to be grateful regarding this because many ask, how do I even get my apartment up on Airbnb? And maybe that's a good question to ask.
Yeah, so the first thing that you'd want to do is take good photos.
Mm-hmm.
Clean up. Make your apartment look the best it's ever looked.
Mm-hmm.
You wanna like show your best side on that listing because that's what people see and that's how they decide whether they want to stay at your home or not.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, make sure those photos are accurate because the worst thing you
Mm-hmm.
can do as a host is overpromise and underdeliver. That is
Mm-hmm.
just like that's just like that brings bad reviews, you know, just bad reputation, and like it makes then, getting bookings a bit more challenging. So
Mm-hmm.
take good photos, be honest and, transparent about everything about your space, the good, the bad, the ugly, everything. And
Mm-hmm.
then, you can expect a smoother hosting experience.
Cool. Cool. That's easy enough, guys. I mean, everyone's out there on their social medias, posting the best photos ever. Do that on your Airbnb, but don't, again, like Moses said, over promise and under deliver. That's some great tips, Moses. I don't want to let you go, but I guess we're going to have to. So, again, thanks, Moses, for sharing these tips with the listeners about Airbnb and how to make the most of it, whether they're going to host or stay in one in New York City. Appreciate you and everything you do. We will talk soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Mariana. Thanks for having me on the show.
Wow, Airbnb in New York is a great side hustle. That was my biggest takeaway today. DM me and let me know what your biggest takeaway was and if this episode inspired you to become a host. I'd love to hear from you. But first, I'd like to briefly recap some key points Moses mentioned throughout our interview. 1. He's in a network with other Airbnb hosts who help one another in getting their rooms rented. I didn't quite ask him how he got into it and if you must be in one to be successful at Airbnb. So maybe I'll have another episode on this. Let me know if you guys would like to hear about that. But I'm pretty sure and positive based on other people I know you don't have to be in a network to be successful, particularly in Manhattan and Brooklyn for Airbnb. Number 2, he's paying rent and sometimes making an additional $1,500 to $2,000 a month in his pocket. Wow. Okay, but really, let's hypothetically say his rent is about $3,500 for a 4-bedroom, 2-bath. And let's stick to the low end of his additional earnings at the $1,500 a month. Lastly, let's only equate 8 months as good renting months because no one's going to come here in the dead of winter and we're Xing out about 4 months on that. So that means literally there's potential of earning nearly $40K a year on top of your already 9 to 5 job. So that is literally, as Moses mentioned, a whole other paycheck in some areas of this country. Lastly, don't all run, first of all, to go get a 4-bedroom now. I'm sure there's additional income and any spare room you have to Airbnb in the city. The third and final thing I'll touch upon is the quality Moises preached upon that one must have to be successful at Airbnb in New York, or I think for that matter, anywhere in this world. And that is number 1, cleanliness. Number 2, truly being committed to it and not just half-assing it. Number 3, always having a great customer experience mentality. So the customer comes first and really making it a rewarding experience for them. I mean, it's simple at the end of the day, guys. And I really hope this recap has helped. Lastly, to quickly touch upon my tips as an Airbnb guest in New York and why it's such an amazing experience. 1, you get to truly live like a New Yorker by Airbnb-ing a room or a home, particularly by seeing the inside of that home. Literally, you get to see the inside. How often do you get that? You generally go to a new state or country and stay at a hotel, but this is actual living. 2, you get to meet amazing native New Yorkers like Moises and make new friends and connections in a new city. That's always awesome. And 3, if you're looking to move here and not sure what neighborhood you want to live in quite yet, you can always Airbnb a place in that neighborhood and explore it for a while, as well as several other neighborhoods and boroughs before settling into a more permanent situation. There is long-term Airbnbs. Some people prefer you stay there a month or 2, so give that a try. Those are top 3 tips for me. I can talk about this topic and give you so many other tips coming from a tourist and local perspective. But we'll end it here and maybe have another episode in the future. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time, guys. Thanks for tuning in to Gossipnista. Your support means the world. If you've enjoyed what you've heard, please be sure to hit the subscribe button and share this podcast with your friends. Can't wait till next week's episode? Follow along on Instagram at Gossipnista to get my latest New York happenings. But if you live and breathe New York City like I do and want even more, go to our website at gossipnista.com, explore, and subscribe to our newsletter to get insider tips first. Lastly, if you have any questions and or scoop on the city, you can email me at gossipnista@gmail.com. Until next time, you know you love me. XOXO, Gossipnista.